What was like the most enjoyable part of filming this series?
Standing with hanging out with the three of them and just laughing. I mean, like destroying takes because we could not stop laughing, singing, dancing badly, and just trying to get through these really brilliantly funny words without ruining a take.
Now, did you guys improv a little bit during these songs, or did you guys just go with what they wrote?
We went with what they wrote. I did anyway. They're very specific. They were very specific.
They were really, within the songs in particular, they were so like sort of beautifully crafted. Although I will say there were a few times where it would be like my character was sitting at a piano and it's like kind of making it up a little bit on the spot. There was so much freedom, so much encouragement to just be playful. And then there was a little bit of improvising with the script on set, but not much. It's so, the writing was so good. And I mean, Paula and Busy actually would usually have like,
who you were. If you were Paula and Busy, they let you go. I think it depends on their comfort. They would let me melodically improvise. If there was any music, I was allowed to. They would let me do whatever. Yeah. But when it came to words, they were like, "No, what we wrote is pretty funny. Why don't you just say that, Renee?"
Yeah, me too.
Now there are two moments in the series that really made me almost fall out of my chair laughing, and the first one was the Cribs episode that you guys shot. I about died. The whole bed is a car thing, and how you're and Sarah trying to make sure everybody in the house is okay with this piano that apparently is visible but not visible. I mean, you were just saying, it's okay. I mean, one thing after another. I mean, how did you guys keep a straight face?
Oh my God, it was
we
so
didn't.
fun.
And we would laugh. We would laugh. It was so funny. The material is so naturally funny, and but I think also that's what made it so much fun to shoot the show, is that we were genuinely laughing at what we were saying and
astounded at the imagination of Meredith Scardino and team of people around her. I mean, until episode 8, I was like, oh my God, you guys are crazy and brilliant.
Yeah.
You didn't think they were crazy when they made you dress up as the mask for the Jim Carrey musical? I mean,
what was crazy to me is the amount of time we would take for, what ends up being a couple of seconds of television. I mean, it's like kind of brilliant. They didn't like their ideas, and they come so fast and furious, are all worthy of this incredibly, large and talented group of people to pull them off, even down to the maskical.
And in Sarah's delivery about the whole being on Maxim's hot list and pivoting to the Derek Jeter line had me howling as well. Now, what's your favorite moment like in the whole series for each of you?
For me, I think because it came towards the end, getting to sing, I wrote a song for the show called 4 Stars, and we get to sing it at the end of the series, and we're on stage and it's the 4 of us. And there was so much celebration in that. It's not only just for the characters of like how far they've come and what they've done to get there, but I think for us as cast members and as people just in a kind of insane and traumatic year of our lives, to have come this far and to be doing something that was joyful meant so much to me. I found it to be really emotional, actually. So that was one of my favorite moments. But there are many moments. One of them is Renee, who just like turns to us as we're doing this ridiculous choreography that was like brilliant and insane. And she's like, "We are killing it." And we just like fell out laughing. We're just like in between takes on set. It was both serious and lighthearted. And that was just such a gift.
I agree. For me, it's just that moment when we realized that we were enough, you know, because I think at some point when you start something like this, it's so ambitious, and the people that are running this ship have been so successful before you ever, you know, your name ever entered their consciousness. And there's just kind of the feeling, am I going to be worthy and live up to this? And at some point, you know, we're just 4 women sitting in a diner booth on a set, you know, at Kaufman Astoria Studios, and whatever natural whim crosses our mind, we know that it's going to be safe and at home in these takes. I mean, just the joy of feeling that free and safe and supported and happy.
I mean, but beneath Paula Pell's Gloria character, her antics, and beneath the craziness, people do need to realize there is a story of friendship here and bond, and I think that should not be buried amongst all the gyration and the callbacks to TRL that happened during the series. I mean, it's really, there is a heart to the show, and that's what makes it special as far as I'm concerned. It's one of the best new comedies of 2021, and you two are a big reason why, and that's why I wrote it up as such. Now, what do you hope fans get from this?
Oh, I hope they, well, first of all, you said you can't see us, so I just want you to know you just made my eyes well with tears by saying that. I feel so much hope because we shot this little thing in the middle of a pandemic, and we didn't know any single day, you know, when with a stick up our nose, whether or not we were actually going to pull off shooting that day. We shot it in the middle of, you know, campaigns, elections, insurrections. We just kept shooting this little teeny comedy, and we had so much joy in spite of all of it, just because we got to do that. We got to create something, and I hope that you can see that on screen, and I hope that it's contagious.
Sarah?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I to echo that, I think it's about joy to me. I found personally getting to be on set and telling these stories and loving these characters and these women who are portraying them was so deeply cathartic for me, in the midst of all the loss and the chaos and the grief and the
protests and
the protests and the pain of last year and this year. It's just has been such a beautiful remedy for my soul. So I hope that people watch it and they feel that they can touch something that makes them joyful. And you know, it won't solve the world's problems, but it really, it's helpful. I do think that making people happy is really a part of the solution.
But you will get to learn about the slinging, and that's something that
you will learn about the slinging. I am glad you brought that up.
That is important. We have to let people know that that's coming. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's Sara Bareilles and Renée Goldsberry. It is the Girls5eva, one of the best new, and this is my son, by the way, who apparently is.
What's his name?
His name is Charlie.
Charlie. This
is totally planned, I tell you.
Okay, that's all the time we have, you guys. So we need to wrap it.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Bye, Charlie. Bye. Thank you so much.
Say bye. Bye.
Bye, Charlie.
Ladies, I love the show. I laughed my ass off.
Oh, thank you.
I mean, I will tell you, when I mentioned that I was going to be interviewing you two for the show, I got 2 suggestions. Number 1, check out Busy's Instagram, and by my calculations, you either post pictures of yourself torturing yourself, or with your workouts and everything, or you're showing like virtual press hacks where you're showing off what you're wearing and how to get around, you know, certain situations.
That was this morning, Dewey, when I just felt like zipping up my dress for the Today Show was too much effort. And I couldn't do it. So I just was like, the great news is we're virtual.
Yeah, for sure. You know? And in terms of Paula, in going back and looking at all your roles, it seems like they always write you a scene or two where you have to like take some sort of clothing off. I don't know if that's, I don't know what that's about.
Well, I think it kind of came from, you know, when we did Wine Country, it was based on a real trip we took, and there was a performance I did with a wicker cornucopia horn thing on my head and topless at the real trip of Wine Country in a home, not out on the street. But so that became kind of a flavor. I also did years ago a thing, a web series called Lady Refs, where Bill Hader and Rachel Dratch and I think Liz Kukowski. There were a bunch of wonderful, hilarious people from SNL in it. And I played a lady ref and I walked by without a shirt on. And my parents were visiting that weekend, so they sat and watched that get shot. And my mom's like, oh God. But yeah, I take them out a lot. I take them out. They're members of SAG. That's a joke I came up with a long time ago, and I will continue to use it.
I'm okay with that. It deserves high praise. Now, what attracted each of you to going on, signing on with this project? We'll start with Busy.
Oh, well, for me, I think just the auspices involved were people that I, love working with. Tina and Meredith Scardino, who I had just worked with a little tiny bit on Kimmy Schmidt, but know how insanely funny she is. And then, Sara Bareilles and Renee were already involved when Tina asked me if I wanted to join. And honestly, just as soon as I heard sort of like the elevator pitch on what the show was, I was just all in, so that was my journey.
Paula?
Mine was, you always, as a performer, writer, whenever you're waiting for the call for anything, the offer or ask of anything, it is the dream to either have someone that you've just always admired and is super talented, and then also people that you love and maybe are your friend. And because of being at SNL for so long, I had these eras of people that I watched them go from, to the stratosphere in terms of success because they were so talented. And so it was the perfect mix of, especially because I'm at an age now, I only want to work with people who aren't jerks. And I want to work with people who are amazing and talented and warm and fun and part of the solution. And so it was like the perfect combo. Like there's no way in hell I could say no to that.
Yeah, I agree.
I was just going to ask you whether or not Busy was a jerk, but you already answered that question by telling me you don't with people that aren't jerks. I guess Busy's awesome.
No, this foursome, these three ladies I work with are such solid gold individuals that we all fell very in love. And I don't know what the word past thruple is because it's a quadruple. It's a platonic quadruple. Yeah. That we're going to just be bonded forever. We love each other so much.
And just to wrap up, because I really do appreciate your guys' time doing this. I know you've done a lot of these. Toughest part of the shoot, the dance choreography or doing all those flashbacks that both of you had to do at some point or another. I think Busy had more flashbacks and different.
Yeah. I would say that the toughest, this is hands down in my many years doing this professionally, making TV and film. This is the hardest job I've ever had, period. And that had mostly to do with the COVID protocols and trying to shoot a series during a pandemic. And because there were just so many restrictions in place, we couldn't even rehearse with our masks off, which is great. No one, we didn't get sick, thank God, knock wood. But those things were really difficult. And we had like shorter shooting hours. And then so to learn those dances, okay, so for instance, like on White Chicks, we had like 2 weekends of rehearsal where we could go work on we couldn't do rehearsal outside of our COVID safe studio bubble. So we couldn't rehearse on the weekends. We couldn't learn dances outside of the like 12-hour working window we had. So for me, I think that like the entire experience of shooting something during COVID, especially something that involved so much, the singing and dancing and choreography and the fast jokes and the flashbacks and all that stuff, that was unbelievably difficult.
That was my hardest thing too. And I always grew up singing, harmonizing and everything, but learning your harmonies via, files or via the computer, like learning things in a different way than you're used to being jammed in as a choir or jammed in with people and you're with the music director and you're all very in person. There was because of COVID and it was inexcusable. It was inescapable, whatever the word, inescapable, that we had to do things certain weird ways. And my hardest thing was dancing with a mask on for many hours, learning dances with masks on. I get I get winded enough dancing, but then add a mask, it was not fun.
It was so hard.
Yeah.
That part was so hard. Yeah, and like what Paula
It's
said,
so
like,
worth it because when we
So
did the
worth it.
slingy and we were shaking our cans, it was worth it.
Yeah.
Creating iconic moves.